Hello, welcome, and thank you for joining Guest Engagement. Please use the Q&A tab in your navigation bar to submit questions as they come to mind. We will answer as many as we can during the session, but we'll follow up after the event to any unanswered questions. All sessions are being recorded and will be available on demand in this event website through August. So let's get started. Creating unique and personalized experiences are goals not easily achieved, especially post-pandemic. Finding creative solutions is essential to maintaining a competitive edge. This session will expand on some of our newest additions to the Agilysys suite of solutions. Joe Ferguson, sales engineer, will lead our session today. He joins us from Denver, Colorado. Joe, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jen. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so greetings everyone, and thank you for joining. My name is Joe Ferguson, as Jen mentioned, and we really appreciate the opportunity to showcase our Agilysys set of solutions. If you were able to join our introductory session today, this morning, led by our CEO, Ramesh Srinivasan, he walked through our journey within the last 40 months as a company and all the R&D effort that we've been putting into building end-to-end solutions for the hospitality market. We're very focused to our hospitality customers and in the industry in general. That's all we do. And throughout today, we will be expanding on the highlights that Ramesh mentioned as far as what is end-to-end and those specific solutions that impact the guest engagement. So you'll notice here on this slide, as it illustrates, we'll move on to the next slide as it highlights more of our talking point. The solutions that we're going to be demonstrating and discussing throughout this session are anchored by our core systems of InfoGenesis Point of Sale, our Agilysys LMS, our Agilysys Stay, and Agilysys Visual One, which are all three of our distinct property management solutions. So when we talk about guest engagement, we're talking about the concept of acquiring the guest. We're talking about the concept of interacting with the guest in a meaningful digital manner, as well as from an in-person or over the phone. And throughout that guest journey, introducing new experiences that are going to be relevant to that guest, and ultimately quantifying that data so the business can leverage that data to reacquire that guest over and over again. And that's what we define as guest engagement here at Agilysys, and that's what our solutions will be discussing in their more granular detail. So throughout the conversation today, you'll hear our product Agilysys Digital Marketing, which is our above property digital marketing tool that enables customers to contact and acquire their guests through digital content, whether that be through email or text. Also with our Agilysys Our Guest Book, which is our booking platform that goes across all of our applications within our hospitality suite. So that includes all of our PMSs, our spa application, our golf, our seat application, as well as activities. And moving on the guest journey, we will be discussing Our Guest Express, which is our mobile check-in, check-out. It's a seamless application that allows our guests to check in, check out off property or on property, as well as Seat, which is the dining reservation application that takes care of the dinner reservations for our InfoGenesis Point of Sale, but also definable activities. We will touch on Our Guest Service, which is our service optimization engine that enables our operators to communicate with their guests over text messaging, as well as internally amongst their operational stakeholders to execute and fulfill services. And throughout the journey, again, we will introduce to you the other concepts of on InfoGenesis On Demand, which is our mobile ordering application that enables the guests to order from any of your profit centers on or off property. And then the cycle repeats itself as we aggregate that data and enable the customers to evaluate it and make intelligent decisions off of that. So The quick look at our agenda is, as I pretty much dispelled to you what the guest engagement experience is to Agilysys. We will be discussing the landscape of the industry and as a baseline to our conversation and what we've been doing, again, in the last 40 months, pre and post pandemic as a company, and ultimately delivering what we call the modern guest experience so that customers like yourself are enabled to elevate your digital experiences for your guests, but also collect that important data so that way you can leverage intelligent decisions for your business. And then we'll be going through a live demonstration of that guest journey. So let's start with the topic of hospitality evolution. And hospitality evolution is a pretty big word. And considering the fact that, by definition, evolution really means something simple that progresses to be a lot more dynamic and complex. Whereas in our industry in particular, we aim to take the complex and make it more simple. And that's what evolution is to us. And that's what evolution, the emphasis of that has been more pointed now than ever, pre and post pandemic. I don't think I need to tell anyone here that the pandemic was certainly unforeseen and some unfortunate circumstances that have disrupted our business a great deal. And throughout that process, what we have found is that the status quo is no longer susceptible and we have to improve. So how do we do that and what do we mean by that? Well, if you're looking at this slide, this is just a very simple illustration, overly simple, if you will, of the traditional ecosystem that you may find yourself in, whether if you're a big brand or an independent brand or property within the business, there's a good chance that you'll have a component of these applications. And what we've done over the industry as a whole in hospitality is we've gone through an integration process, either at the property level or from a supplier provider level like us. Right? And that's, again, the illustration explains for itself. The integration is a complex process. And within that process, what we collectively try to achieve is to pull that data out, right? We want the integration to flow because there's a data exchange. But within that data exchange, can we make it meaningful? Can we make it meaningful to do some upselling? Can we make it meaningful to do some reacquiring or first acquisition of that guest? All those things go into play here. But what we've learned, especially now, and it's more poignant now, that this way of deploying an ecosystem is very costly, and it can no longer be that way. For some of you in the audience, you may have already started to make this transition away from such a disparate ecosystem to more of a cohesive ecosystem by leveraging modern technology or modern applications. Because again, I don't think I need to explain that the process of integration of applications can be very difficult. It's time costly, as well as it requires very expensive resources, some of which we don't have the affordability to do so. Some of the big brands, you may have your own IT resources to be able to do some of that integration on your own. But at the end of the day, those costs do rise to the surface. And when you have all these disparate, applications in your ecosystem, there's always that trouble of maintaining the system maintenance. And when one application upgrades, it tends to have a disconnect in another. And you got to try to balance out the maintenance upgrade cadence for everything in your ecosystem. Again, that's taxing to the operation. And at the end of it all, what we essentially get is an incomplete view of the guest data, right? It's a partial view of what you're trying to aim for. And it's not because you're not trying, it's just really, that's the mercy of the technology that's really available in the hospitality market and largely deployed today. So we noticed this as well within Agilysys, and throughout our history, I'm sure you've experienced that in some sort of fashion as well within our own applications. But as we monitor and observe the industry in general, there's this evolution of breaking down silos, and how we approach breaking down our own silos is a little different. So how do we solve that disparity amongst applications when we ourselves have such a large amount within our portfolio? And to do that, that vision was really, the genesis of that vision started when, again, as Ramesh was explaining in the introduction, back in 2017, 2018. So just a little bit over 36 months ago, there was a vision to modernize the Agilysys applications or Agilysys portfolio. And what we had to think of is, in that modernization process, how do we enable our customers to take advantage of our new innovations that we're going to deploy without disrupting their existing ecosystem as minimal as possible? Furthermore, how do we make our own applications as we release them, and these innovations that we release, how do we make them symbiotic and more synergy between them? And in that same process, how do we make it enabled where it can integrate with a third-party partner or within the ecosystem for a customer that may not choose everything Agilysys? And ultimately surface up to delivering an integrated user experience for both of the guest and the user. So this slide is just really an attempt and an illustration of what we've been doing foundationally as just covering the basis at Agilysys for our entire architecture and ecosystem. So what you're looking at is really a reflection of our approach in layering the architecture with microservices and RESTful APIs, but also building our applications in really two parallel roads: the user experience for the operation, staff facing, and the user experience for the guest. Today, in our conversation for the guest engagement demonstration, we'll be focusing more on the guest facing applications, but they couldn't be delivered without the core of staff facing applications that we have to offer. So what is the modern guest experience? The modern guest experience today, it may look something like this. So we'll use Jennifer as an example, and Jennifer is celebrating her birthday. So as she's celebrating her birthday, she was going to decide how to celebrate it and where to celebrate it at. She's going to pick a property, hopefully yours, and she's going to decide to spend her birthday. Throughout our ecosystem, what we have designed our architecture to be enabling our operators to do is to understand that this is Jennifer's birthday. And so you may want to suggest a bottle of champagne or her favorite martini. Offer her a pool view because it's noted in the preference that she likes a pool view. And through historically, she has reserved rooms that have a pool view at the property. Of course, you want to do something to acknowledge her birthday. Simple happy birthday or a birthday card will do. She's also vegan. So when she arrives at the restaurant, wouldn't it be nice for the server to acknowledge that she's vegan and even point out the vegan items on the menu without her having to ask the question or explain that she's vegan? She's also left-handed. So when she arrives at the golf course and she books a tee time, it'd be really nice for the golf pro shop to offer her left-handed clubs, or even do that at the reservation level. And throughout her stay experience and her guest journey, we're going to communicate with her over text message just to make sure that, let her know that we're there and we're ready for her to be at her service. And at the end of her stay, she's going to leave and she's going to either decide to pay with her loyalty points that you might be using or you might be affiliated with at your brand or property, or she may just want to use her Apple Pay or her mobile wallet. Afterwards, we're going to solicit her feedback, ask her how we did, collect that data, and also improve based on the feedback that she's given. And then repeat that process all over again. And that, to us, is the engaged guest experience. And that's what we aim to deliver with the ecosystem of products that we're prepared to demonstrate. And again, if we take Jennifer out of that picture and transition it back to the Agilysys integrated applications, these are the components that we will be discussing and how it impacts the guest experience today. Furthermore, in that first slide that we introduced in the conversation is the disparity of applications. So how do we solve the disparity of our own applications? Because spa, for instance, has its own guest data. Golf has its own guest data. PMS has its own guest data. Point of sale has check data. So we can't eliminate any pieces of those data, right? What if they stand alone? But what if they stand cohesively in an ecosystem? So as we approach that to solve that question and problem, what we came up with is above system data, right? Above property data, above system data, where we start to aggregate the guest data autonomously in the back end, what we call the common profile service. So the benefit of a customer going with the Agilysys ecosystem is not only do you have modernized products that really enable you to deliver differentiating guest experiences, but also the aggregation of data that you've been either trying to attempt to furnish and fashion yourself, or you're still doing that today. We want to make that easier for you, and we want to make that easier for ourselves as well. So the common guest profile, in essence, is really the foundation, the hallmark that we tried to achieve as we looked at the modernization project and the vision of that really was set over 36 months ago. So what we're prepared to show you in today's demonstration is bits and pieces of what the common guest profile does today, but we're really excited for the fact that this is the ground foundation that's going to build more functionality and rich features for Agilysys ecosystem of products. So let's go ahead and dive into the demonstration side. And again, as I explained earlier, we look at it in really two roads, right? So first road being the integrated user, right? Really for the staff and operation. So how do we enable your staff so they are able to deliver exceptional guest service, right? And in that same fold, when we're talking about the engaging guest experience or the integrated experience, well, how do we enable your customer to be able to participate in your guest experiences that you offer at your property and or brand? So it's a twofold, but at the same time, again, this is all a cohesive integrated experience. So take LMS, for example. And if you were able to attend our flexible property management system session, we showed you that our modernization in flight, or our modernization projects with our LMS application, which is traditionally green screen user interface. And you can see that this is the browser based. But the point that we want to highlight here is that within LMS, really within all of our property management systems, because of the common guest profile, there's a concept of itinerary. Now, itinerary is not a far-fetched concept. It's not groundbreaking by any means. But what the itinerary is doing, or really what the common guest profile is doing for the itinerary, is that it's aggregating that data for you. For instance, as I expand on that, let's say that your property has a spa. Of course, you have a hotel, you have a spa, you have a couple of dining centers or restaurants, right? Revenue centers. And a customer or a guest is going to reserve at the hotel. They're going to reserve something at the spa, and they're going to have dinner at your restaurant. There's a good chance that they're going to participate in all of that during the course of their stay. As that occurs, as you have our Agilysys set of products, LMS, our spa, InfoGenesis, what the common guest profile does for you is that it aggregates that data as it occurs and it presents it to your users without any intervention. So the user doesn't need to go and search for the fact that, our guest here, Mr. Joe Ferguson, has a spa appointment as well. It's going to be reflective in the guest itinerary of the LMS UI. Same for stay, same for Visual One. So this concept is, again, just groundbreaking as far as for us to be foundational and the first launching point of functionality of, hey, let's make it easy for the end user to acknowledge and see that there's an activity that the customer or guest is participating in their ecosystem. And let's make that very easy for them to do, where they don't have to search for it, other than go and look at it in the itinerary. So that's one of really the first emphasis of the common guest profile. And again, there's going to be much more, because for the Visual One users in the audience, you may already be like, well, yeah, Visual One already does that today. We have the activity scheduler. You can even cancel, and it's going to ask to cancel the other appointments that are on the activities. It does that too. But this, again, Visual One is a monolithic program where you have to buy Visual One Spa, you had to buy Golf Pro in order for that data to be cohesive. For us, what we've done with our modernization is we've decoupled them in layers. So that way, when it is that third party, we're not there quite yet, but when it is that third party application and they're part of the ecosystem, can we recognize that data and can we do the same thing as if it was part of our Agilysys ecosystem? Of course, we want you to buy our ecosystem. So continuing on in the guest journey, the other key aspect is how do you now interact with that guest, right? So especially with us coming out of post-pandemic, and it's not quite over yet, it seems to be looming, but at the end of the day, the concept or what's on top of mind is how do I do more with less? Because we're all faced and stricken with shortage of labor or talent that we're able to regain back into our operation as we open. But also, how do we keep a distance away from our guests? How do we make them feel safe and still valued and still enable them to participate in some of the experiences that you have to offer? So what our guest service does, it's actually, we can spend this whole session on our guest service itself, but one of the key things that really has made this particular solution very attractive is how it interacts with your guests or how it enables you as the operator to interact with your guests. So as a very common example, once a guest checks in, we can have our guest service send an automatic text message to that guest, welcoming them to the property and letting them know you're at their service. And they can just simply reply back on a text. And as they reply back on a text, you're either going to exchange dialogue to give them more information if that's the solution or the path to the solution, or you're going to create a task and then you're going to route that task to someone else in the operation that has the duties to fulfill it. So our guest service does a whole lot more than just interacting with your guests, but that is a critical piece that it plays when we're talking about the guest engagement journey.
Joe, I have a quick question for you here.
Go ahead.
So, and it's about the common profile. Does it address conflicts? Meaning, if someone were to book a massage, will it make sure that the guest can also, will it give an announcement that you also have a tea time if they're conflicting?
Yes, it does. So that's a very good question, and it's worth an expansion. So the way we approach the conflicts notification and resolution is that first it does acknowledge that there's a conflict. So, and you could have brought that question up at a better time. So what we're looking at here is from the spa point of view, right? In the spa application. So what the common guest profile will do in this case, if I booked a tea time, an 18-hole round, that's about 4 hours. So if I booked a tea time for myself and I also used my name to book this massage at 10 a.m. and my tea time started at 9, the spa would alert the end user as a spa, as you're looking at this guest profile, it says, hey, there's a good chance this guest is not going to make it. They got a tea time, and it'll tell them that detail. But what we don't consider is, what if I use my name to book for my wife? I didn't use her name, but in that reservation flow, I booked for myself. I went ahead and booked a spa. We'll sort that out later. And she's actually going to be going to the spa and I'll be on the golf course. So yes, it does acknowledge that. Now, when we start to ask ourselves the question, well, do we want to stop the user because they booked a tea time too? Like, well, what if that person just used their name to book a tea time for themselves and maybe for their daughter or for significant other, whatever that may be. So yes, it does. We'll be happy to expand on that if you want to reserve some time with us specifically, and we'll go over those scenarios. But the answer is yes. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome. All right. So that was a really good, timely question. So from both the spa and golf perspective, the common guest profile, as you can see in the guest profile, in the respective system, it represents an itinerary that tells them like, hey, you got a hotel reservation. Hey, this guest has also got, here's a great example. Look at that tea time. I reserved at 8 a.m. to 12, and then I got a massage therapy between that tea time. So can you see a conflict? Absolutely. Do you want it to be automatic and say, no, the guest can't do that? Well, maybe not. Let's go and have that conversation and think it out. All right. So, and again, that is just really the basis of what we're doing here at Agilysys when we're talking about our architecture and ecosystem. Now, much of the focus, and rightfully so, much of the focus has been really emphasized on the end user guest, right? Enabling the guest to participate in everything that you have under the brand. And the reason that we really taking that approach is that we're in the age of Web 2.0, right? Well, whatever Web 2.0 is, we'll discuss that more in our contactless journey. But essentially, every guest out there, virtually every guest that's literally traveling and showing up at your properties, they're going to have a smartphone. And that's arguably the most powerful device that's, the closest to them. And in that process, what they've been used to and what we're all conditioned to do now is look for information, shop for items in our personal, and also interact with social media, all from the same device. And that's why we're glued to it. So when we're talking about guest experience, we're talking about, hey, can we make our booking engine or can we make all of our applications web responsive? For one, is it web, right? For two, is it responsive? And the answer is yes. The reason why we wanted to make it web is because it's always connected. We don't want you to, we no longer live in the age, or if it's an advanced and innovative application, it doesn't force you to choose, hey, I need to download this from the Google Play Store. Or if I'm, or if I'm Apple, right? Or I need to download this from Apple, right? I want to participate in that experience right now. So when we're talking about, and I'm going off a little bit on a tangent here, when we're talking about the integrated or the user experience today, we're talking about the advancement of Web 2.0. Now, back to the content at hand. So when we're talking about the engaged guest experience here at Agilysys, we're looking at the outer edge, right? Again, going back into that track of the guest journey. So where the common guest profile translates to the guest, because we looked at it from the end user or staff facing perspective, is to the guest now, they can log in, right? Well, yeah, that's not far-fetched, right? As they log in, they can view their itinerary. Because again, we've already aggregated that data for them. Now we're going to present it through the booking engine or through the booking portal that enables them to see, oh yeah, last time I stayed there, I had this, I remember that massage and how can I forget that tea time? We're going to go back there, right? So get them excited about their stay, but maybe perhaps use the itinerary for the future. And this is more future, it's not now, but in the future, maybe do some upsell from the itinerary. So that's something that is definitely got high potential and traction for.
Joe, I have a question for you.
Yes, go ahead.
Let's see, we have one that came in. What transaction fees are associated with the booking engine?
$100 million. Just kidding. Zero. Big fat zero. Thank you for asking that question, because the booking engine itself, and there's certainly a lot of booking engines out there. And you'll see this throughout the demonstration of how we're able to really distinguish ourselves in the booking engine market. But one of the things are the fact that the acquisition fee is minimal, right? There's a licensing, so you can parse out that licensing as to your cost of acquisition and do the math there. But there are some booking engine providers out there that charge you a fee either on a monthly basis or per transaction for the reservations that you're getting on your website itself. Now, there's justifiably, it's there because that's their business model and you may already participate in that. But for us here at Agilysys, what we wanted to be very mindful of is when you're acquiring a guest through your direct channel, your brand.com, your domain, we want them to have a digital experience that really entices them to come back to your lowest acquisition channel, which should be your website and your hardest working. So the cost is zero, and we'll expand more on the cool features that you can have.
Great. Thanks, Joe.
Sure. So when we're looking at the guest journey, again, just continuing on, after they make the reservation, we're going to invite the guests to check in utilizing our Agilysys or our Guest Express mobile check-in, check-out. So what that application does is we invite the guests to come in and check in, and we do that two ways, right? Really two ways or third way would be just to call them. But the two ways that are probably the most highest conversion is text message and email, and let them know that, hey, it's time to check in. And through the process, when they click on that link or touch the link to say that they're ready to check in, you as a business from a lodging standpoint can leverage your sales tactics or really the application options to leverage sales tactics. For instance, you want to be able to upsell your hotel rooms, especially if they're ones that are vacant, and especially if they're available during the whole entire guest stay. So why not, right? You have the inventory, the guest has already reserved a standard room. Let's go ahead and offer them some upgrades and let's see if they want to participate in that. And there's a good chance that they might, because they're doing that in the comfort of their private device. The other components are, again, the check-in process. We want the guests to be able to answer the questions like, is my stay information correct? Do you have my room type correct? Do I want to, maybe I want to buy something else, right? That you may be offering. So you can do additional upsells here, like, offer a bottle of champagne, right? Which is pretty, common and cliche-ish, but at the end of the day, if you don't offer it, there's a chance. I mean, Wayne Gretzky said it I missed every goal that I didn't take a shot at or didn't attempt, not verbatim. But that's the concept here, right? Within the digital experiences, enable the business to take every advantage when the conversion aptitude is at the highest, right? When they're just getting excited about their stay, let's get them enticed and upsell them. Here we have our guest service. And again, throughout the check-in flow, we're following the guest, right? And throughout the check-in process, we're going to let them know, hey, we're excited to see you. And you can reply back to this text and, send us any of your requests, do your best, right? So in this dialogue, you can see that the guest has asked for some extra towels. There's a dialogue going back and forth. It's not fully autonomous where it's not just a full chatbot, although those are functionality that we're also looking to, that's on our roadmap to do a chatbot response, but also enables the end user to make sure that, the delivery of those towels are fulfilled. Next, throughout the guest journey, again, following them is the concept of, on demand. And we'll be covering this more in our contactless sessions, as well as our next generation F&B solutions. But the idea here is, again, allow the guest to participate in everything that you have to offer, and let's make it as easy as possible for them to do so. So what I mentioned this before, there's no download of the application required. In fact, the guest can scan as simple as a QR code, and we're used to it now where we scan the QR code to see a menu, but not only do you see a menu, but you can complete the order process entirely. And it's up to you as the business of how you want to fulfill that ordering process. Whether are you going to deliver to the guest? Are you going to ask the guest to come pick it up? Or do you want to present both? There's a lot of dynamics that we cover in the on-demand product alone. When the guest is ready to check out, again, our Guest Express mobile is introduced back to the guests. We're going to let them know on the day of checkout, hey, we got your folio ready, and you can do it right here on your phone. So when you're looking on your phone, you're answering the questions to yourself as, what charges do I have? Oh, I see that I have a, F&B charge from our food and beverage point of sale, Infogenesis, that got posted. And the guest can see that full check detail. And another hallmark, really illustrating the power of integration that we have within our ecosystem. Does the guest want to change their credit card? Do they want to do a split payment? They can do that as well. Because again, we want to cover those self-service scenarios where it eliminates the guest from coming downstairs. Or if at all possible. And in that same fold, when we're talking about the loyalty aspect of our customers, and mainly in our casino base where loyalty is absolutely key, but also in our leisure non-gaming space, is enable the guests to self-redeem. Do they have points that they can use towards the balance of their folio? So that is just really the introduction slide, and hopefully with looks like we have just a little bit enough time to cover the end-to-end guest journey. So I'll speed up the process a little bit here.
Hey, and while you're switching over, can I ask you 2 questions, please?
Go for it.
Great. So what SMS service does our guest service use?
So our guest service can use, it's actually quite brilliant. So our guest service has a couple of SMS options because it has its own SMS gateway built in. So you can use as little as a personal phone plan to communicate with your guests over text. That's kind of a hacking way to do it. The other way would be to subscribe to like, Zingle or, major subscriber of SMS, and we will interface to them that way.
Awesome. Second question, what are the deployment options for Argus Book?
Argus Book is purely cloud. Great question. It's purely cloud, and it's directly integrated with all of our property management systems. So depending on how you deploy the PMS, whether it be on-premise or in the cloud, it's going to be fully integrated. It reads directly from that PMS as a system of record for inventory and rates. But the architecture does change a little bit between which system you have, but it is a cloud deployed system.
Great, thank you.
All right. So we have just about 10 minutes left in the journey. So let's go ahead and look through the product. Okay. So what we're looking at here is an email delivered by our Agilysys digital marketing. Okay. So this is, again, our above property digital marketing application where you can furnish your own really dynamic, as much as you want, dynamic confirmations based on rates, group codes, guest types. The payload API is great with every one of our PMSs. And again, we'll go into more detail if you want to dive into this product. But ultimately, what we're doing is curating content, right? And we're curating content based off of PMS event. So what do we mean by that? Well, to put it simply, somebody cancels, right? Somebody canceled their reservation. We say, okay, so every time you cancel, we want to send this and see if we can reacquire you, right? So this is a reacquiring campaign type of strategy. And you can see in the content here, it's really as much as your imagination your creative imagination can create, right? So there's room for text and vivid images. And the call to action is how we're able to integrate the booking engine, in this case, our guest book. So when the guest says, yeah, I do want to book again, I had to cancel for reasons that, that were out of my control, but I definitely want to go back. So as they click on that email, either on their desktop, phone, tablet, really doesn't matter, we're directing them back to the conversion path here at our guest book, right? And so, the offer is already chosen for them. So for strategy purposes, maybe you said somewhere in your content, like, hey, it's 25% off if you book now, right? So you have an offer, guest just really needs to choose their stay dates and choose their room, right? And so when we're going into the our guest book experience within our platform, this is perhaps one of the more powerful innovations that we've had released within the last 36 months at Agilysys. The reason being is that the question that we responded to about the no commission fees, right? There's no commission fees. So let's drive your reservation traffic as much as possible to your brand.com. And while they're shopping on your brand.com, let's do things like, again, upsell, right? So they're using a staycation, we're getting them excited. So, champagne sounds really good. So does strawberry. So let's go and add those, right? And while they're there, let's go ahead and while I'm here, right, as a guest, while I'm here, I want to go ahead and book a spa appointment. So you can see here within our booking engine, guests can just seamlessly transition to the spa booking engine, and they can look through the list of services, right? So these are your list of services that are exposed in real time, right? You don't have to worry about a delay in time or delay in inventory. You decide as a business of how you want this service to be exposed on the booking engine, but it's in real time. So I, as a guest, I'm going to go ahead and book that, that aromatherapy massage, and let's go ahead and add, foot and hand treatment. Why not? Sounds fun. Definitely going to do a tea time. So let's go ahead and go do some golfing. Maybe I'll do that on Thursday. We'll check out this course here. It's my favorite course. And 8 a.m. there's 2 spots available. So let's go and add that. All right. And then while we're at it, let's go ahead and make dinner reservations as well at the steakhouse. So I will look for some availability here. Let's do that Friday at 5 p.m. I like to eat early, right? So as the guest goes to their cart, they're now, again, just making a very informed buying decision. All along this process here, the information that's exposed to the guest is, the upsells that they opted into. What are you paying for your taxes? Is there a resort fee, right? Those are things that they can answer very quickly and easily throughout their shopping cart. Again, what's the deposit at the spa? What's the, what am I doing at the golf course? All those things. And if at any point they feel like, you know what, this is too much, right? Maybe I just want to do, I have to choose between golf and spa, right? Golf one in this case. So they can make those decisions very easily and seamlessly. Now, we talked in the beginning of the presentation about the concept of the common profile, right? So the common profile in this case, we'll use this guy here. The guest is going to log in either during this portion of the guest journey or the booking journey or beforehand. And how you curate that really is up to you and your creativity, because this, again, is a marriage between your website and the booking engine. And we'll be happy to expand what we mean by that in a presentation. But the idea, again, is for me to log in very easily. I don't have to keystroke that information in. All I need to do is give you my email and password, which we're all used to. And now I'm ready to, convert my booking. So as I agree to your terms and conditions, this is your terms and conditions that are also dynamic to what's in the cart. And here I'm going to give you my information just like I would do for anything else that requires a guarantee with a credit card through our secure iframe. All through which this is a responsive application. So the booking experience doesn't matter. It's just as delightful, just as dynamic when you book on the book on a mobile device, book on a tablet, or book on the phone, right, or on the desktop. Okay. So now that we have the guest reserved, what we'll do now is ask the guest to check in. So there's a couple of ways that you can ask the guest to check in, right? So this is where our Agilysys, our guest express mobile check-in, check-out comes into play. In combination here, again, we're using our digital marketing, Agilysys digital marketing, to furnish the notification, right? So we're notifying the guest, hey, we're really excited that you're coming. We're even letting you know that you're a gold member at our property. So a little bit of touch and repeat guest. We're letting them know, hey, you can check in online. You don't have to wait, wait in line when you come to the hotel anymore, right? So I will say, oh, yeah, I'll definitely participate in that. And just click on the check-in button and notice it goes directly into the check-in experience. So the guest doesn't have to keystroke that information in. Now, that was from the email. From an SMS standpoint, the guest pretend that this is my phone here. So we'll make it look like a phone real quick. So here's my phone. I received a text message again for the same integrated experience. I touch on the text message, and now I'm going through my check-in process again from the comforts of my phone. And in this experience here, you can see that for this particular rate, I may have decided to do some upsells. So that's the dynamics that you can control with our core applications, our PMSs, to decide, do I want to upsell for a particular rate, right? Maybe there's a rate that you want to try to introduce upsells, and maybe there's a rate that you don't. But you can make those decisions, and that's the kind of options that you have with our applications. So as I complete my check-in process here, all of the information that I provided in the reservation or from my profile, it's already been populated, makes it very easy for me. And all I need to do is agree and check in now. So what the application is doing is actually it's speaking to the property management system, and it's doing the authorization for the credit card according to the authorization formula that you have. So your room and taxes, or if it's a comp, maybe just taxes or incidentals and so forth. Next, what we're doing is we're prompting the guests to let them know, like, hey, this is how you're going to get your key, right? So again, depending on the context of your property, you may have the digital keys or the infrastructure to handle digital keys, which is, having the guest use their phone to open the door. We can power that to make that happen. Or if you want to just direct the guest to come by a particular station to give you their ID so you can exchange keys, you can do that as well. So the guest is checked in, and after they check in, just continuing on our guest experience here, we're going to welcome them at the property. So the welcome can be, again, one of two ways. Here is more content welcome based off of our Agilysys digital marketing, making a very pretty looking email where this email has call to action. So like, oh, I didn't know you had a spa. Maybe I want to book the spa. Again, all I have to do is interact with that email and it's going to launch the booking engine in this case. Going back. Going back to the welcome letter, what we've also done with our Agilysys digital marketing is we wrapped in our Infogenesis on demand. Again, just really engaging guest experience that we're delivering here. So the guest is reading through here like, oh, I am hungry. Let's go ahead and order a snack. So all they need to do is click on a very simple call to action, like order now, look at our restaurants, however you want to craft that narrative. You're enabled to do that with the combination of our ecosystem tools. So here, what you're seeing is a representation of our Infogenesis on demand. The guest is looking through where they can order in this case, which is all controlled by the business. So, maybe I'm staying at this particular property in this case. So I'm going to go and pick up my order because maybe I'm just going to move about and, not stay in my room. The various cues here to really navigate and guide the guest experience. Like, when do you want your food, right? When can we expect you to pick up your food if you're going to pick it up? I'm going to say as soon as possible. I'm on my way, right? We can capture reward information, credit card, all the great stuff. We can go into greater detail as we have more time. But in this case here, I'm just going to go to my revenue center, which is the local restaurant. Here's a great representation of their menu. Again, this is all web enabled. So if I'm looking at it from my phone perspective, this is how it would represent. So I can go in here and click on, what's to eat. Oh man, that beef noodle bowl looks excellent. Let's go ahead and add that to my cart. Let's go back here and let's grab a beer or wine. Oh, Newcastle sounds really good. And let's go ahead and go to my cart. Let's go and check out. I skipped on that a little too fast there. I just want to point out and emphasize, it also lets me know when the food is going to be ready. So gives me an idea as I'm making this order. 14 minutes isn't bad. It takes me probably another 5 minutes to go down to the lobby, go look at some paintings and things like that, whatever that may be. But I'm going to go ahead and check out. Let's go ahead and use my name here, last initial. All right, and let's use my phone number. Okay. Certainly going to leave a gratuity and we're going to go to payments. And when we go to payment, again, the options here are based off of context. Is it room charge? Do you have a loyalty system? And for the interest of time here, we'll just make it very quick and easy and make this a credit card charge. And we'll process. My order is confirmed. It's giving me my receipts. And speaking of receipt, I can text my receipt over here and send me a copy of the receipt so that way I can present it when I'm go pick up my food. And there's this queue of my receipt here. So we will expand on that. And there's my order that I just made with our on-demand. Now I've had a really delightful experience, and what we'll do now is check out. So where's my check out here? There it is. Okay. So I've had a great experience at the property and I'm ready to check out. And here again is our guest mobile express check-in and check out. And this is representing my bill as I got this notification, just like I did before with the text or email. So the first question that the guest is going to ask themselves, well, what's this bill total, right? What's it look like? So they can drill down. You can see a room charge. You can see a Black Hawk Steaks, which is the restaurant in this case. I can drill down into the additional information. shows me my taxes, it would show me my resort fee, and it represents the ticket total. Here again, I can click on the little tag here that any charges that are made from our InfoGenesis point of sale, it will show that full ticket detail. Again, just really enabling the guests to answer those questions like, oh, I remember that charge last night. No need for me to go by the front desk. Everything looks great. They can also leave a little gratuity. So in today, with housekeeping, maybe I want to say thank you, housekeeping, and leave a little gratuity. So notice that my total will change now. And there's that housekeeping gratuity that I just added. Okay. I can use my points to redeem against my guest balance. I can also, or the business can decide if they're going to offer me a late checkout. Again, elevating my guest experience, giving me the empowerment to make these selections and choices on my own. I'm going to go ahead and take off. So I'm going to go ahead and pay checkout now. And now our Guest Express Mobile is talking to our PMS. It's checking out the guests. If you have our guest service, it's going to flip that room. It's going to notify the guest room attendant that that room is vacant now. It's you can go in there and service that room instead of knocking and see if someone's in there, and completing the guest journey. So that ends our demonstration and really the presentation of our guest engagement by Agilysys. We certainly hope that you found some value in what we presented today, and we look forward to having more detailed conversations with you later. Jen, I will give the floor back to you.
Oh, demo. In the interest of time, I think we're going to breeze past Q&A. There was a question that was asked and entered in the Q&A tab. So if you're interested in that response, there is one there. We had a couple more questions come in that we'll respond back after the event. So again, thank you for your participation and questions. If you missed any of the sessions this week, they're going to be available on demand in the platform. So up next is multi-property management. We hope you can join that session. And before disconnecting, please click the survey tab for a quick 3-question response. Thank you and goodbye.